Guys, listen, sometimes anime is bad, and sometimes anime is good. And sometimes anime is both. Hello, and welcome back to Binging Last Season, where today's episode is going to be split into two parts. The first half is going to be your standard episode. I pick an anime, I tell you a few things about it without spoiling it, and I tell you whether or not I recommend that you guys watch it. The second half of this video, however, will include spoilers, because we need to talk about a seemingly insignificant writing decision that was made in the final two episodes, and whether or not that is going to completely tank any hope that this series has for success. The anime in question is I left my A-rank party to help my former students reach the dungeon depths. And look, you might be thinking that name is stupid, but it's not a stupid name just because it's unnecessarily long. It's a stupid name because the translation is so bad that it ends up being factually incorrect. And yes, the original Japanese phrasing of the title isn't very exciting or eye-catching, but the new phrasing implies that the reason he left his A-rank party was so that he could join his students, which is not true, and that his students were the ones who had the goal of reaching the dungeon depths, which is also not true. They only adopted that goal for his sake. His students' original goal was just home ownership. Millennial icons, honestly. Anyway, for more exciting grammatical takedowns of anime title translations, make sure you subscribe. This is Yuke, and he's a red mage. You can tell he's a red mage because he's got a red shirt on, and he's got red pants, he's got red eyes, and he's got red underwear. Red mages specialize in weakening magic, and if you ask his former party, Yuke is completely useless. His only redeeming quality is the fact that he's hot, and I'm not making that up. They explicitly say that. They're just sitting around a table talking shit, and they're just like, yeah, he's got no money, he's got no riz, he's got dreamy eyes. He's so annoying. He constantly causes problems for our party. I want to ruffle his hair a little bit. Bro can't even fight monsters. The only good thing about having him in our party is watching his sweet ass walk up the stairs in the dungeon. Oh yeah. But he is not just a piece of eye candy, and he quits the party because they're not treating him well. And honestly, I do respect that about this anime. Most of them say nowadays just, oh, you get kicked out of the party because you're useless and we don't see the value that you bring. He said, I see my own value, and you guys aren't giving me a fair cut. Fuck this shit, I'm out. And right as he starts the job search, he gets recruited by three girls that he trained to become adventurers. And now is the moment that you might notice the theme of this anime being harem. Hold off on that. It's not really relevant for the first 12 episodes. And this is when the show settles into a genre of fantasy anime that I like to call dipshit positive. And I call it that because nothing bad is going to happen to our main characters. You expect absolutely zero bad outcomes. You expect everything to work out at the end of the day. Which is why when it dipped its toe into being a little darker and not having the perfect sunshine and rainbows outcome for everyone, I thought this was pretty neat. I thought they were going in some pretty cool directions. And on top of that, the visuals are really solid, not just in the first 12 episodes, but in the whole runtime. There are some moments that really impressed me, to be honest with you guys. And the fight scenes always held up. Now, I'm not saying this is perfect, because it's definitely not, but the most annoying thing to me in the first 12 episodes is the fact that every time they're getting ready to go do a mission or something, Yuke always does this snap of his fingers thing that gets really annoying after the first one or two times. Every time he fires off this neat spell, he snaps his fingers, and it's not so bad then, but anytime they're getting ready to go into a dungeon, he's just like, remember, let's do it safe and have fun, and then he snaps his fingers in the air like he's a fucking maestro or something. The first arc ends at episode 9, and for this video, the first half is done. I can't go further without talking about spoilers, but as of episode 9, I thought it was an 8 out of 10. I was really enjoying this show. I thought it had a lot of impressive parts to it. I was surprised it was a 24 episode run for a new IP, but it seemed pretty good and they were putting a lot behind the budget. Again, a lot of this show is very pretty, so I was expecting great things for the rest of the runtime. That's not what I got though. Spoiler block here, I am going to be talking about several key moments in the rest of this video that are definitely spoilers. If you want to go into this blind, this is the part where you should click off the video. So you remember when I said that things got dark in the first arc for a second? Well, that was the moment that Yuke was fighting his former party leader and childhood friend, who had acquired immortality through nefarious means, and he said, bro, I'm gonna kill you, I'm gonna kill your whole party, and you're not gonna be so hot anymore when you're not breathing. How about that shit? And Yuke said, okay, well then in that case, I sentence you to eternal suffering. You can't die. My spell will cause you pain until you die. And if those combination of things sound pretty fucking dark to you, they sounded pretty dark to me too. It was pretty cool. But in the second arc, they take the wind out of their own sails from that moment. After a fight, by the way, that made me audibly say, holy shit, while I was watching it. Because again, this anime is fucking pretty. As Yuke is destroying the MacGuffin that is going to bring death and destruction to their world, in much in the same way that it destroyed the dungeon world that they are transported to in the second arc, he realizes that it's his party leader, that he had traveled across space and time and become this like golden nugget of like cursed undying that could grant any wish possible. And it's just unnecessary. It was a moment that made me go like, this MacGuffin didn't need to relate back to the first part of the anime. You didn't need to undo the decision that you made earlier. Having his party leader's fate be that dark moment of just endless torment and suffering, that was pretty dope. You didn't need to include it in the story of the second arc. It feels like you're sort of ruining this like separate story point by saying, oh, do you see how it's related to the first story point? Isn't that cool? It's not. It's just annoying. But it's not enough to make you hate the anime. All of the strange decisions that they make across the runtime, they're just temporary. There's these sort of blips while watching that you say, I don't know if I agree with that writing decision. I think that was a pretty stupid choice, but it's not going to ruin the anime for me. It's not going to make me question everything you did. Yeah, you want to say that like you're going into another country with old school traditions, and so you have to say that the women that you're traveling with are your property to, some form of wish fulfillment for the author. I don't know, but okay, whatever. Like, it's not that big of a deal to me, and it's something that I can move past. But the last mistake that they made was not something that I could move past. See, the whole time I was watching the last 2 episodes, I had one thought really going through my brain, which is, they are rushing the ending. They didn't have enough time to do all the stuff they wanted to do, so there are some awkward things happening as a result. There are emotional moments that should hit harder, but the characters just move past it relatively quickly. They don't even really worry about it because they're just trying to get to the ending. And, it comes off a little strange, almost like it's written by a computer, but again, it's not impossible to just accept and move on. Yeah, it's a good show, had a rushed ending. But then the writer self-insert moment happens, and I felt a combination of cringe and embarrassment that resulted in me having an I will dominate moment in my room, screaming at my computer screen.
Bro, what the fuck?
Suddenly, all of the awkward writing moments from the past 23 episodes that had sort of thrown me off a little bit, but I moved past, became major issues and indicators that the writing here is just completely off the walls. If the writers are willing to fucking jack themselves off that hard using the characters, talking about how great they are as writers, then everything else just becomes this major issue in my mind that I don't want to move past anymore. I wanted to move past it because I wanted to respect this show, but this was the moment that I said, fucking gloves are off, man. A beginning and more so an ending are really important. That's why, as it turns out, a lot of my favorite anime over the years have my favorite OPs and EDs in them, the songs that I listen to on playlists. You cannot screw an ending up to this degree, and if they hadn't done this, then I wouldn't be looking back so critically on the rest of the season. I would just say, it wasn't that great of an ending because they rushed it. Now, it's not a great ending because they did one of the strangest writing moves that I have ever seen. And frankly, I don't know if this is the original author or the people adapting it to the anime. I just know whoever did it, they are a vain and disgusting human being, and they need to keep the fucking audience in mind. The audience doesn't want to hear you talk about how cool you are through your characters. This is fucking lame. But that being said, it doesn't move the needle down past a 7 in my my opinion. I know I sound pretty frustrated right now, but that's because the most significant mistake that they made was at the very end. So that's the last thing I have to think about, and it left a really bad taste in my mouth. And the other mistakes that they made were in very significant moments, so I could see going as low as a 6, but I can't say this enough. This anime is pretty, and apart from those major moments that made you think, what the fuck are they smoking in the writer's room? The rest of it's pretty good. I just wish they kept that energy the whole time. Don't let this video turn you off from watching it though, especially if you watch the spoilers before you saw it. That way you go in expecting the worst and you can actually enjoy the parts of this that are really worth seeing. I'll see you guys next week.